It's my real pleasure to be the one speaking about the newly created Iberoamerican diatom network and database. But of course, this is a super highly collaborative project supported by many people from different career stages, countries, nationalities, local context, and of course, I would like to thank. This is going to be a little bit of not many results and outputs out of this presentation, more than commercial or propaganda about this grant schema funded by the International Society for Diatom Research that we were lucky to receive this grant last year within the networking grant. So yeah, the idea is to show you what have been doing so far in terms of networking, assembly, fostering discussions to how to really build a network about diatomists in Iberoamerica, but also try to assemble what we call the first Iberoamerican diatom database. Okay, so this is the outline that I'm going to follow in this presentation. I will start off kind of setting the basis why we think it's important to have such a network and a database in this region. Points number 2 and 3 will be more on the specifics of the grant and the project, a little bit of the database structure, some preliminary results, and a bit of what we're going to do next. And point number 4 is I thought that could be also really interesting to make a brief overview of the Neotoma database, which is intended to be the final platform where this database and where all the dataset compilation efforts will be uploaded and put on to be able to maintain it dynamically, but also in the long term, because it's important. And also we'll, of course, conclude with some concluding remarks about what we think it's more important than just having an output, a tangible output, such a paper, a data paper, which is something more non-tangible and lessons learned so far in this grant. Okay, so the philosophy of this network and the grant itself is, I think it's pretty well phrased in the first sentence that I'm showing here in the first bullet point. So we want to go beyond the classical approach that when we think about data synthesis, that you collect and I analyze your data. This is not what we want to do. Of course, for any synthesis effort, both data collectors and data crunchers are important. But this sentence, I think it's pretty well phrased. So the data crunchers, the data analyzers would certainly not exist without all people that go to the field, get dirt into the mud, took samples, count diatoms in the macroscope. This is very obvious, but sometimes we tend to forget how valuable is the primary data set. So we built on this collaborative spirit, trying to also to connect diatom researchers, but beyond academia. So most of us in the network and the coordinators are, let's say researchers, but also we have different people from private companies that are also working with diatoms in their work, like water agencies to fulfill certain environmental laws, such as the Water Framework Directive in Europe. So they are very well versed in things like taxonomy changes, different data sets, types, etc. So we aimed also to mobilize data, but also people for a greater good. So we think that everybody will win if the participants and the collaborators are rewarded, and more importantly, get fair credit and visibility. Again, not just sharing the data, which is great, but also working very close with them to understand why or why not they are able to share the data. So the SEED, which is the acronym of the grant, is a kind of a weird combination between DiatomS, meets databases. It's intended to be this first seed for establishing long-lasting collaborations also among the early career community, but most importantly based on trust, coordinated and democratic practices. But of course, for some of you that have tried to compile different data sets with different objectives, these come with many different issues. And most importantly, when we think about data-driven diatom research, there are many. This just a list that I've been thinking of these last couple of days for certain regions, and that's probably important for the Iberoamerica. We lack, or there are some countries that have limited access to resources such as diatom floras, or the floras that are available for that regions have the limitations that have been, generated by global North researchers that come with their experience, but sometimes, that can create a little bit of discrepancies when identifying taxa. No need to tell you that diatom nomenclature is very stable, rapidly evolving. Now with molecular data, this is quite something that we need to consider. Not in this grant, of course, we are not talking about molecular. We have a lack of updated and taxonomic list of diatoms from different environments, especially when we cross the divide between freshwater and marine. Everything is more complicated and is more dispersed and not really searchable. Ecological groups are also not flexible enough for a regional scale assessment, such as ecological guilds for river communities or river floras. And then we enter in a list of, I think, the most important challenges that I think we are facing in this grant and everyone that deal with large data sets is the metadata. So documentation of why and when people do certain things, such as updating synonyms or not updating synonyms, what happened when there is uncertainties in classifications. Everyone knows that this is quite a challenge in CONFERS, SPPs, affine types. This is something that we still don't have an answer yet, and probably we won't have it in the next year or so. And of course, this comes with there is no general protocol, or at least we don't have a general protocol right now when harmonizing diatom nomenclature. By harmonization, I'll be using a lot this concept. And my objective is use it indistinctively from things like synchronizing or homogenizing names. So through harmonization, the way how we understand it in this network and this project is when two different analysts count the same slide. So this is not possible in our grant because we are already having data that is already counted. So by harmonization is more like synchronizing names. So make sure that everything, two names that are supposed to be two different things are really two different things. Okay, so there are no issues in synonyms and types or unidentified species. Okay, so why we need another diatom database? That might be a very natural question to pose when we have, for instance, this nice database called Neotoma. I'll be talking about this later in my talk, but this is just a screenshot that when you go to the website of Neotoma database, is a global coordinated database of neo-ecological but also paleoecological observations. And when you query in the menu diatom surface, diatom sediment surface samples, you see that the distribution is quite, I think it's fair to say, geographically biased. There is a reason, is because this database, its genesis began in North America. So it's fair to say that the more available or publicly available data sets of diatoms are concentrated in North America. But we know that not everything is in Neotoma, or not everything is in a centralized database. There are many databases, there are many repositories, ones more searchable, others less searchable. But there is many different data sets that are potentially be mobilized by the community as well. Neotoma, as I said, is a paleoecology in nature. So we also have diatom core observations. So when we add into the modern site distributions the diatom core observations, we also see this kind of a concentration of sites in North America, some little spots in Europe, and a little less, or a little more, sorry, in South America. But again, yeah, that's we know that there is, for instance, the lake core database in Europe, that it's available but not really accessible. And when we this is a review paper that Jaime Escobar and collaborators put together in 2020 in Journal of Paleolimnology, and they plot the distribution of all the sites that have been using diatoms for these studies over the last 20 years, and a little bit over 1,200 articles. Only 118 were located in tropical regions, if we consider this as the maximum representation of portions of the Iberoamerica. So there is certainly a lack of studies in these regions. And if we search, I did the exercise, only 10 out of these 118 have data. So you can actually download the count. So there is, again, not only a geographical bias, but also a lack of access to raw data. But why we need open data in diatoms specifically, but also more in general. So I'm making a little bit of abstraction here, so that the topic is diatoms, but I think it applies to many different communities as well. Data compilations are great because I think it allows us to expand the focus, no, of our studies at larger and temporal scales. It allows to ask cool scientific questions. So here I just added some papers that have been quite influential to me about biogeographical patterns, island biogeography, historical processes. So we need to really test these ecology hypotheses, ecological questions, a certain number of sites that are representative of different environments. But of course, this is great. But when we came to really acknowledging and making and giving credit to the ones that generate this data, the point that I was kind of making at the beginning, this grant is really striving for democratizing knowledge. Sorry for for not really being very soft on this. Before sharing datasets, sharing dataset is great, but we need, or we want to have more than just a data, because when we just only have data is when issues in data equity arise, such as, for instance, this is a very nice plot from a publication. It's in paleobiology. It's about other topics than diatoms, but I think it applies very well here. So the current status quo, everything that compiles large data sets, ask big ecological questions, get all the funding or most of the funding, citations. Students really want to go there to do synthesis. It gets all the prestige. So, but we want to kind of balance out these and get a much more equitable data usage and data access, right? This study was about the citations issue, but I think it applies to many different aspects. Okay, so with this in mind, this is what we had as a let's say context to put together this project, the SEED project. It's as I said before, it's funded or supported by the International Society for Diatom Research within this newly grant schema for early career researchers within the networking type. So it's great. I think all the international societies should follow this schema, because there are some certain things that goes beyond just having a paper or just having funds to go to the field and collect data. So it's much more building a network and building collaborations. So the objectives, we have three main objectives within this grant. As I said, probably the most important one, more than create a database, which is great, but it's just a secondary objective or objective that will naturally follow after once we achieve the first objective, is to improve practices on open diatom data through fair, coordinated, and democratic approaches. If we achieve that objective, we'll be more than happy. On top of that, if we create this database in whatever form it is and to a maximum level of depth, that would be also great. And most importantly, we want this database being curated by the community. And by curated, I mean, or we mean that experts or taxonomic experts or regional experts, those that are providing data, are the ones who will be able to really validate not only their names, but also others that are probably communities that are geographically closer to their areas. And finally, of course, within this network, we want to create the synergies that are necessary for future studies about ecology, paleontology, and biogeography. So this is very much a database that has focused on ecologies in its widest sense. The network is quite, let's say, large at this point, and four of us are the ones that are kind of coordinating this craziness. Besides myself, we have Sabrina Bustos from Argentina, Sandra Garcés from Spain, and Luján Garcia. She's based in Germany, but she's Argentinian. So although it's not very well represented in terms of country-wise focus or representation, at least we have two of us in each side of the Atlantic, which is great. In the beginning, to set up the network, we launched a call of participation or call of interest, and we received 35 responses. And these are the participants that form the core basis of the network. The network is open, is very dynamic, and as you can imagine, this is, there are people that are very active, people are less active, that take turns in depending on their interest, but also in their capacity to be active. So that's great. In terms of country representation, we are from 6 different countries. I know that we are lacking many participants from certain countries, especially in Latin America. So this is why we're trying also to participate in these talks to announce and pass the word and make a little bit of the network to spread the word. At the beginning, because when we start like building a database, everyone knows or everyone is interested to know what's the focus or what's the purpose of it, and the purpose was create a database created by the community to answer ecology questions, but we didn't want to restrict the type of questions to be answered when we interrogate this database. So we asked the community what type of questions they were interested in answering, if they had, in hand some certain, database that is comparing different environments in tropical, subtropical, temperate ecosystems, freshwater, marine, etc. And this is when this word cloud emerged with many different topics that from there we started to build the call of data participation as well. The network is also kind of a give and take. So we want people participating and getting, let's say, training in database capacity building, in data cleaning, in taxonomy harmonization, but also we want people to kind of participate and be active to a certain point, right? So this is when we ask this question, how people will be able to participate in seed, and of course most of the people sharing data, fantastic, this is great, but also this is not restricted to participants that have data to share. We want, again, mobilize the community and the people in whatever form they feel can contribute to this network. The grant is kind of organized into these three working packages. The first one is already passed, is the established working package. So we set up the network, the core group. We prepared a document, a living document that it's kind of stating the data sharing and collaboration guidelines. I think this is important in any type of synthesis project in order to to balance out expectations, and also a project repository. This is still not very well defined yet, where we store certain the codes and the data sets. We want to move to a much more kind of collaborative system. We are right now in the middle of the Unify working package, which is the actual data compilation and data harmonization per se, by generating pipelines of data set cleanings, reproducible workflows, scripts, and everything that comes with, as much as possible, something that can be reproducible. And whoever is in the in the coordination team, if they left out for any reason, there is no risk or less risk that the project can follow if that person is not there anymore for any reason. So we want this to be as much as dynamic as possible. The last working package is called share, is when we believe the database or whatever form of the data set compilation will be published. And also because the grant comes with a little bit of money, which is fantastic and great, and we are super thankful for that. We planned to organize a hybrid meeting in Buenos Aires in Argentina, and that money will go primarily for providing travel grants to people in South America to go there. And the idea is to invite and bring in Neotoma colleagues such as Don Charles. I think he's here in the presentation. So he's overseeing the diatom dataset in Neotoma, so we can kind of start thinking about the transition from this database or this dataset to Neotoma for the long-term maintenance and long-term usage. Okay, so one of the first things that we did within SIT is to prepare or establish this inventory version 1. By inventory, we mean just a spreadsheet. It's in Google, in which everyone who is keen or interested in sharing data can go there and add certain aspects or certain, let's say, dataset characteristics and dataset descriptors to start working with them and see to what extent they are keen to share this data. Up until now, we have 30 data sets or 30 entries in this table. It doesn't mean all the 30 data sets have already been compiled and analyzed, but we are working there. But it's good to see that we have a nice representation of water bodies in terms of habitat types, freshwater, but also some brackish and marine sites, which is, I think, very good. And also in terms of representation of countries, of course, it's very few compared to the extent of Iberoamerica, but we have a nice representation from both sides of the Atlantic, which is also the objective. Now I would like to focus a little bit on the aspect of this divide between what is the data sets that people enter in this inventory being published or unpublished, because as you see, the numbers is quite 50-50. We have data that are already published, or the paper that uses this data is published, which we suppose or we can assume that the raw data by these people, sharing by these people, can be much more easily mobilized for the data set. But what happened with the unpublished data set. So we spend a little bit of time at the beginning of the grant setting up a kind of a workflow, not a workflow per se, but a series of instructions and activities to make these data sets published and get a DOI, so people can get credit, can get visibility. It doesn't mean that people using this data will do the right thing, but at least in our side, we plan to do the right thing and work with the authors, with the original authors, to make these data sets first published in this repository in Zenodo, and then added into the database. Zenodo is also great because it allows you to create what they called community. So it's imagine like a virtual folder. All the records and data sets can be placed in this community, which means it facilitate searches in the internet, like diatom's, Iberoamerican. So everything is more or less searchable for a common topic. And of course, as any other repository, Pangea, Neotoma, Noah, Dryad, once you have it in there, you have a DOI, which is a digital object identifier, which means you can get citations if people uses your data. Most importantly, this is a process that the authors do by themselves with our help, of course, but they control visibility, which is also important. I will explain you in a minute. And I can control also access by specifying certain users to see the records, but not download the file, or vice versa. What is really important here, and that's probably the most, the take-home message from this slide, is that having a DOI is a prerequisite to the data set being included in SID. So without no DOI, we are not, I mean, it's kind of harsh to say, but we are not accepting any data set that have no DOI. So basically because we want the data set be published by the authors and learn how to do this in a certain way. So I think that's a positive point. We don't need, or we are not requiring the data sets being in Zenodo only. For instance, we have paleoecological observations from Sierra Nevada lakes in Spain that are already stored in Pangea that are read. So we took the DOIs from there, and it's not a prerequisite to be all in SID in the SID community, but yes, having a DOI. So this is the link to see what's actually in the community. What is there now, we have 10 data sets archived within the community. 2 are open, which means people can download the file, but 8 are restricted, which means the record is visible. People can search for the data set and look at the metadata, what's the data about, but it's not accessible in the sense that people cannot download the data set. With the 2 open data sets, we can kind of interact with R. So there is an R package to connect via Zenodo, and we can download this data set, which is, I think, a positive point because it allows us to maintain kind of a stability in the different versions of the data sets, okay, and not a data set that is stored in somebody's laptops and in Google Drive that might be more chaotic or more complicated to follow up. It happens the same with Pangea. Pangea has a fantastic R package, and we have been using this R package for searching also what can be used and included in the database. Okay, so a little bit of the structure, how we are organizing ourselves in terms of the database. So this is all, let's say, imagined in the way that people can use it. It's reproducible, and more importantly, it's easy to incorporate new entries as data become available. So we start with this inventory table in Google Spreadsheet. Then we contact the authors and say, okay, so you said that you are interested in sharing this data. Please use it or fill in this standardized Excel file that we have provided in a, there are 3 tabs in Excel for diatoms, metadata, and environment, if there is any environmental data associated to it, or if it's paleo, any, of course, chronological control or age depth model that gives us a sense of how is changing the samples in depth or time. Once we have this constitutes what we call the level 0A data. And this level 0A data is what can be uploaded into Zenodo. And of course, this comes with many iterations between us and the data contributors to make sure that at the end this Excel file is in a meet a certain level of criteria to be incorporated in Zenodo or level 0A. After level 0A, we extract metadata, so which means we asked in this Excel template aspects such as latitude, longitude, type of data set, environment, if it's river, lake. So we extract all of this. If it's time series, we also extract the temporal range of observations. I'll show you in a minute what we actually do. And also, we start with this taxonomic harmonization. Quote unquote, harmonization is synchronization, homogenization. So we check the list of diatoms with an external databases. I'll show you in a minute which ones we are using to make sure that everything is named in a coherent way. So there are no things like variety, dissipata, bar, dissipata, something like that. So we want a certain level. It doesn't mean we remove typos, we update to synonyms, etc., etc. This will come after that. And once we have this sort out, we move to the level 1, which is something that we still haven't done yet. So we are blocked here. So which means we start analyzing or we start saying distribution, species environment, relationship trends, etc., etc. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, exactly. So an overview of what we have up until now in the database. So we split it, we classified the sites into 3 different categories. Modern, which is anything that is or most of the times is a single time visit. So we have a data set that there are 10 observations, and these 10 observations comes from 10 different sites that have been sampled once or twice. That's as maximum. So we call this modern. Then we have time series, which are sites that have been comes from a spatially replicated sample. So each station or each site have been sampled more than 10 or 15. So it's time series. It's not paleontology, it's modern time series. But and this is the majority for now, because as you can see in Spain, there are 2 river basins that are time series data. And also paleontology. Up until now, we only have 5, but we plan to have more. And also, so in South America, there's something that I haven't mentioned, sorry, and I'll be talking a little bit in a minute. It's that we are also taking advantage of the tropical South American diatom database, which is an effort that I coordinated in the last years. And of course, there is many lessons learned out of this project that can be incorporated into this database as well. In terms of habitat types or ecosystem types, sorry for the small labeling of the color code. We have lakes as on top of the list. Most of the sites are lakes because we have many lakes in South America. Riverine streams, coastal wetlands, ponds, shallow marine as well sites, and also a very interesting ecosystem type that I learned that exists thanks to this project, which are croconite holes. I think Susana is here from Ecuador. It's a very specific a special ecosystem that forms in volcanic soils and accumulates sediment over time very slowly. But it's considered modern. It's sediment surface, but it's modern. It's not fossil because they found living chloroplasts in the diatoms, which is fantastic. Okay, so with the taxonomy, the way how we are dealing with it right now is taking all the lists of names from these different data sets, and we check the names with these external databases or checklists, which are Omnidia. People here working in Europe probably are more aware of this database. Is used by many different water agencies and private companies, mostly to calculate ecological status indices based on diatoms. It's an impressive list of diatom species with synonyms, more than 28,000 names. We are also using the biodata aquatic bioassessment database from USGS. I think it's a little bit outdated now because we're using the 2011 version, or there is a new one. I don't know. That's something that Sarah maybe can answer. And also a very recent resource. So it's an update of the Van Dam diatom list in the Netherlands. In an ecological indicator values. And here, what is quite interesting is that these colleagues are using also Omnidia codes. Omnidia code is a 4-string code that goes with each different diatom name in this database. That then we are kind of prioritizing these Omnidia codes because it allows us to really keep pace to some extent with these rapidly evolving nomenclature changes. So and also the synonyms associated to them. So with these 3 checklists, what we did is with the individual data sets, each of one is looked up against this external checklist, okay, in a systematic way, and we generate a final name that is kind of synchronized with this external list, okay? And if the name is present in Omnidia, we take the Omnidia code and the associated synonyms. If it's not in Omnidia, we keep the original author classification, which in most cases are those uncertainties such as confer, affine, SPP, and so on. But it can be some cases in which names are not in Omnidia, but are in biodata. So then we take the biodata name and looked up again if let's say if the authority, because the authority is also a kind of important thing to track, for instance, ecological groups, or when we want to group certain groups of diatoms by ecology, we can go back to Omnidia and see if some synonyms are there. So it's a kind of a looked up function that plays with the different checklists until we have as much as possible a common name across these 3 different checklists. I don't know if I explained myself very well. I'll be happy to take any questions about this later. And once we have this, and this is a kind of in progress or work in progress. So, well, everything is work in progress, but this is more in progress than the thing I explained before in this 2-step process. We will have the seed diatom master list, okay? And with that, we're gonna check everything that got undetected into this external into these looked up tables, okay? Something like classical typos. So for instance, some Gonphonema parbolum, okay? So it's not, Omnidia will not find Gonphonema parbolum because it's not there. So we need to deal with that. And also we need to deal with the uncertainties in classifications, okay? And this is a collaborative, let's say, task. What we do, I don't know. So we aggregate everything that is confer into SPP. I don't know. The varieties, we aggregate and everything into the nominal species, or we lump species complexes because we know, I don't know, for instance, Agnanthidium minutissimum. Now with the molecular information, we know that everything is is a mess and it's complex to really identify, and maybe the species complex. So everything, all of this need to be done kind of by these regional groups that I mentioned before. And of course, any suggestions are more than welcome about this, let's say, taxonomy protocol or taxonomy process. Sorry for this screenshot, it's very bad, but this is an example of the table, the output table that we obtained after we checked the user taxa list, okay, against these three different databases, such as Omnidia, Biodata, Authority of Biodata, and Mertens, okay? And the last column means that it's a code that if the name is not in Omnidia but is present in Biodata, we can obtain the code in Omnidia. Anyway, yeah, that's just to show you how this works. Okay, so now we'll briefly present also just to make the connection between seed and what I'm gonna talk into the last portion of my talk, which is the Neotoma diatom database. This is the a database that many people have been collaborating with me, because I started when I was doing my postdoc at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln with Sherry Fritz, and we assembled very different types of lake diatom lake communities, especially from the Andes, adjacent Amazon lowlands, and the Galapagos Islands. And also in the recent years, I also incorporated paleo records, both from Neotoma and also from this Journal of Paleoimmunology review by Jaime. There is also environmental data associated to it, and the database is fully available in GitHub. And also we published a paper in Diatom Research a couple of years ago, now 3 years ago, explaining the database and what people can do, can interrogate using this resource. Sorry, with this database, we also have a series of what we call tools that we can also use for the seed database to explore distribution of sites, distribution of species is based on this Shiny app applications, which is based on R, and it's dynamic, and it's a way of visualization. So it's a kind of data visualization tool that we think can be used or can be improved, of course, for the seed database. And this is all great, having the seed database starting to be assembled and dealing with all the issues that come with taxonomy. But also we want this to be dynamic, and we want this to be maintained in the long term. And this is when the Neotoma paleoecology database come into play, and I think it can play a really important role. The Tropical South America diatom database, it's nowadays part of Neotoma as a constituent database. By constituent database, I mean Neotoma is called a database of databases. So it's a compilation of datasets, but also software associated to it, are packages, educational material. So it's more than a database. So I think, or we think, that should be the platform where to store our effort and try to collaborate and connect the two networks to each other in order to both reduce the geographical bias of diatom data sets in the world, but also get the community and get the network trained and understand how these large synthesis efforts function. Yes, this is what I've just said, or just before. And of course, the seed grant is a side project at the end, and we all face jobs instability. We played different rhythms, different roles. So we want to be sure that our effort is not going to be, lost lost between quote unquote, is not lost anything, the lessons learned, but also we don't want this database to be not dead, but static without new input. So we want something alive and dynamic. And most importantly, I think what we can contribute to with SID into Neotoma is our experiences, but also from them, the data science support, the cyber infrastructure. So there are fantastic people that understand very well how Neotoma works and how we can improve certain things that probably we are like using very routinely, and just in a couple of lines of code, they do it for us. So yeah, that's how we think it can work. A little bit of Neotoma, just for some of you that haven't heard about this resource. Is a global paleoecology database, but also includes modern observations. So because it's paleoecology in nature, the role of, for instance, diatom calibration data sets or diatom top, bottom, core observations are also there. Everything, to my understanding, any kind of data that we can think of can be incorporated in Neotoma up until certain level, but the cyber infrastructure team is very keen to understand what are the needs of the community to be able to use Neotoma for their studies. In terms of what SID can kind of contribute and can get benefit out of Neotoma, I think it has certain characteristics that are really key for us. One is that it also generates DOI. So everything that we said before about generating DOI for giving credit to authors in Zenodo, Neotoma also does it. So any new update, it gets a DOI. The datasets are curated by the community, which means any new update, uploads into Neotoma, it's kind of overseen by data stewards, which are, let's say, experts in their proxy, in our case, diatoms. And that means that it meets a certain level of standards, such as diatom names. It doesn't mean harmonization. So it doesn't mean everything that is in Neotoma is harmonized in the sense that there are Cyclotella steligera, but also I forgot the synonym. Anyway, so there are synonyms. So it doesn't mean everything there is cleaned and TD, okay? But it's a higher level of standardization. And most importantly, there are modern and past observation, which is also kind of the focus of our SID project, having modern observations of diatom communities and past observations to really link this to different temporal ranges. Neotoma is a very diverse database with very different dataset types, ranging from pollen to foraminifera, but also diatoms, ostracods, plants, mammals. Most recently, I think there is some effort in incorporating ancient DNA as well. Water chemistry, it's fantastic. But again, as you can see in this map, we kind of lack of representation in certain regions in the world. So I think this is why we need this kind of data mobilization project such as SID. As I said before, Neotoma is more than a database. Is a universe of activities and data users, data contributors, informatics, educators. So everything it's kind of well linked, to my sense, in pursuing the open data and fair data practices. There is currently 29 constituent database, again, covering pretty much the entire, let's say, range of biological organisms. And diatoms, I think, it's one of the most important after pollen, maybe, and ostracods in terms of data points and data contributions. Neotoma is also very interesting because it has, as I said before, the database itself is a relational database, which means it's there are many different tables. I don't know how many hundreds of tables connected by common identifiers. This is not what we have in SIT. But what is great is that it has an R package that can be used for just download or query what is available there. And I think, again, what we can contribute into Neotoma and using it as a long-term platform to maintain our database and all of these external taxonomy checklist, I think can be really helpful for improving not only the taxonomy issues, but also how workflows are generated and documentation as well. Okay, so I think, yeah, probably I'm a little bit out of time. Sorry for that. So the last slide that we like to place here is, of course, how people can contribute and can join the network. There is a registration form here. I can place the links in the chat later. And also there is a kind of a parallel activity or parallel network of a Spanish-speaking network of diatomists that have been a little bit also very supportive for this project. And then I'll finish here. These non-tangible benefits of networking goes way beyond having a database. Having a database and sharing data is great because it's when people, start to know each other, what they're working on, the region, their expertise. But there are some aspects that are not really tangible, which are many. And to me here, I listed a little bit, but it's visibility. So I'm always saying the same example. When I was doing my postdoc in the US, I knew more people working in Europe than in South America, where actually I was doing my fieldwork. So that's we need to really kind of bridge the communities and try to not enlarge these barriers because of language or lack of training. So this is only done, in my opinion, by setting up these networks that are safe in terms of support. We can explain in 100% confidence what we want to do, why we are not sharing the data, etc., etc. I think that's it for me. Thanks so much. Sorry if I went a little bit over the time. I'll more than happy to take any questions. And also, this is my email if people wanna contact me for any reason. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Xavi, for a really important presentation. I really appreciate all that your team has done. It's really been amazing what you've done in this amount of time. And it's such a big job. I wanted to make sure that people get your links in the chat.
Yes.
I put some in.
Okay, I can.
Maybe
I can
you
also,
or one of your team,
yes,
if you're taking questions, can put in your GitHub and Zenodo links.
Yeah, I think. Well, I see Lujan is here. Thanks, Lujan. Maybe she's kind of answering some questions. But yeah, I will paste these links into the chat so people can.
And we can also, don't worry too much now. If we don't get it, we can make sure that if you give them to me, I can put them all on the
website.
The website.
Perfect. Yeah.
Where we summarize your talk.
Yes.
And we've. I know some people will need to go, but if anyone has questions,
yes, please.
Please raise your hand or put something in the chat. I see Layla says thanks to you and Maria for such a nice presentation. And she asks, is it open for all regions? You mean
yes.
By
all regions, I think, Layla, you mean within Iberoamerica, I suppose.
Uh, in fact, I have in paleo, I have things from Monkedia, from the Gulf of Angola. I mean, and for modern, of course, from Tunisia and now from polar Arctic region. So it's not South America and it's not Spain. So I just asking if.
Yeah. So the short answer would be no, but of course, yeah. Again,
Okay.
it's, I mean, but yeah, because at the end we something that kind of linked us is probably the language, so Spanish and Portuguese, and
Okay.
so, but not let me finish. It's not like just because we are you're not speaking Spanish or Portuguese, you're out. It's more like in terms of representation of Iberoamerica. So it's in terms of environments that are there. There might be environments that are shared, of course, outside Iberoamerica, but we need to start with something, and that something is that region. But for instance, Neotoma, if you have data, I think Neotoma is the place to
Okay.
go, because
Yeah.
it's not restricted to any region. Our restriction is just to build a network and improve ways how people share data more than associated to certain type of environment. I don't know if
Okay.
I have answered your question.
Yeah, yes, yes. Because I thought since Spain, there is Spain, I have some environment and brackish diatom's species which are like yours. That's why
Yeah.
I asked it. Anyhow, I understand very well your English, so thanks for all.
Thank you, Leila, for the question.
Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions? Go ahead and raise your hand. In the meantime, Xavi, I just, this thing about harmonizing taxonomy, my soul just hurts every time I hear this, because it's, I think we just expend far too much energy on something that should, this is computers can do this very well. What are nomenclatural synonyms? There is, I mean, and I'm guilty here. There is a very nice GitHub application that will take, if you have a list that you're trying to conform to, can show you what things are not in common. And I think that, it would be really helpful if all of us as an international community have a way to provide a solution to that harmonization of nomenclatural synonyms, so people don't have to go through it again.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's what we are struggling, and something that we also want to, at least we don't have a definite answer, and probably we won't have it, but at least sharing how people deal with that, and because at the end it's going to be a collaborative not answer, but at least something that is approachable to, that is workable for many of us. But at the end, we all need to make some decisions about synonyms or dealing with the uncertainties, all of these kind of things. But yeah, I agree with you that it's important to have some automatic process, to so speak, like make what's check what you have in your data and what's, let's say, accepted names. But at the end, it's also very on each of the, let's say, the community that understand why or why not they classify that species in that name. And we were not, I haven't mentioned that but in the proposal, we also wanted to kind of incorporate metadata with images, diatom images, to kind of validate to some, and to some extent the classifications. Neotoma, I know that there is a place where people can also upload images for the taxa, but this is way away of our, let's say, capacity to deal with that. I mean, for instance, using voucher floras as well. There are many people that do that in a regular basis, and that's great. But yeah, that's not unfortunately, we are not able to deal with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I just posted a link to that too, and announced
exactly.
everyone that diatoms.org acquired a massive amount of space, and we are able to post voucher floors from any project, and you can contact me for more information on that.
Perfect.
Which is a different activity than what you're talking about, the harmonization, but it sets the basis.
Yeah, totally. I think it's the
Anna also asks for the link to the GitHub. So yeah. And that would be great. Yeah, if you post it there, and we'll also post it on your page for this seminar to put all this there too.
I will send you, Sarah, all the links, and if you can place them in the ISDR page, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Comments or questions for a discussion with the group? If not, we're a little after the top of the hour. I know people need to take off. So I'd just like to thank everyone for joining today's Diatom Web Academy.